Are you looking for a classic, easy Southern cornbread recipe? We've got the one for you with the crispiest, crunchiest crust that you're gonna love. Stay tuned. I'm Trace Barnett and welcome to Garden Party. Today we are going to make a classic Southern cornbread that's the easiest recipe you can ever imagine. You probably have all of the ingredients in your cupboard already. So my aunt makes the best cornbread in town, probably the best I've ever had, and the secret to her cornbread is the hot oil in the skillet. So this is my cornbread skillet. I never cook anything in the skillet except for cornbread, and so it's well seasoned. And the key to this cornbread is the hot oil. So I've got 1/4 a cup of vegetable oil here. And you really want just a generic oil. You can use bacon grease if you want, you can use lard, but just a generic high smoke point oil is perfect. I'm taking my skillet and I'm just rolling it around. I really want to coat all of those sides with the oil. I've preheated my oven to 425 degrees and I'm gonna go ahead and throw this skillet in the oven and let that oil get hot. So while our skillet and oil are heating in the oven, let's go ahead and mix our wet ingredients together. So I've got 1 egg here. Throw that directly into the bottom of the bowl. And I'm gonna give that a good whisk. And be sure to mix your wet ingredients first because that's really gonna prevent our cornbread from having lumps, which if you have a lumpy cornbread in the South, that's just a no-go. So this is 1.5 cups of buttermilk. I'm gonna pour about a cup in here and I'm gonna reserve the other 1/2 cup just in case I need a little bit of extra in our batter. So give that a good little whisk. I love the color of the egg yolks in that buttermilk and it already smells just like good cornbread already. So now that we have our wet ingredients all mixed together, let's move on to our dry. So today I'm using a cornmeal mix, which just basically means that a couple ingredients, baking powder and a little bit of salt are already added to our cornmeal here. Of course, if you're using an all-purpose cornmeal, be sure and check out the full recipe because we have those substitutions there. So when you are measuring your dry ingredients, just like when you're making any kind of bread, I know cornbread's such a basic bread recipe, but be sure and level your cornmeal off just because we don't want any lumps. And if we have too much cornmeal in our bowl that's dry, it will not correlate to our wet ingredients. Now, this is the controversial part, and that is, do you put sugar in your cornbread or not? And I'm one of the cornbread people who like just a little bit of sweetness to offset that just tiny bit of salt. Now I'm adding a tablespoon there. If you like your cornbread a little bit sweeter, then by all means, be sure and add it. I'm also using white cornmeal today because that's a little bit of the North Alabama in me. And if you like yellow cornmeal, be sure and use yellow too. Really has that nice, pretty color. I'm gonna transfer our wet ingredients here into our cornmeal mix. And I always use a rubber spatula when I'm doing mine. That way I can really scrape the edges of the bowl. I remember my grandmother always used her hands to mix her cornmeal, which was one way to do it is all in touch. And we want a cornbread batter that's got just a tiny bit of movement to it, where we can almost pour it out of the bowl. I can look here at this cornmeal mix and I can see that it's a little thick. So I'm gonna pour just a tiny bit more of buttermilk into our mix. Not too much, just a little. Give that a good stir. I'm gonna give this one final good turn here, good stir, and I'm just gonna let that sit for up to 5 minutes. Now notice when you let that sit, it's almost like the cornmeal itself soaks up that little bit of buttermilk and there's a little reaction that happens and it kind of puffs up. So that's gonna give us that light, fluffy cornbread that we all love in the South. I'm gonna grab our oil and skillet out of the oven. I love the versatility of cornbread, so you can make your cornbread really fit the taste of whatever dish that may be. I'll start out with my absolute favorite first, and that is pork cracklings. And I love that little bit of like crunch that the pork adds. I love that little bit of salty flavor. Plus, I just feel like a real old pioneer when I'm eating crackling bread. So my best advice when you're first starting out making your cornbread is make it quite a few times. I mean, you're gonna have great success when you first make your cornbread, but visually, you're gonna know what your batter should look like. You know, nowadays when I mix up cornbread, I don't even measure anything. I just blurt, blurt, blurt. And so after you make it a few times, you'll just you'll catch the cornbread. Done. If you've made it this far in the video, be sure and hit subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Plus, you don't want to miss any more garden party, do you? So I have got our hot oil and our skillet out of the oven, and I'm going to just slowly pour that little bit of oil. And now you can see it's hot enough when you hear that little bit of sizzle. Right into our cornbread mix there. And this is the key. So you want to take your cornmeal mix, and I'm just going to sprinkle that all into our skillet. And if you can hear that, I don't know if you can hear that on the camera, but you can hear that little bit of sizzle, and it kind of just puffs up down there in the bottom. That gives that little bit of tack on the outside of the cornbread, which is just so classically Southern. So even after I've added that little bit of oil to my cornbread mixture here, I still want a little bit more liquid. So don't be afraid to add a little bit of this and that. That's what cornbread's all about. It's kind of like eye and feel. So cornbread recipes back in the day started off with literally just cornmeal, boiling water, and some salt. So through the years, and as society has grown in cooking, we've decided to add milk and dairy and eggs. That's the perfect batter consistency there. Absolutely perfect. And this is what I love about using the rubber spatulas. You can just get every last morsel of that batter out. And I'm gonna level that out by just shaking our skillet there. And I'm gonna put that back in our 425-degree oven for about 30 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes. You'll know your cornbread is done when it's kind of puffed up. It's really beautiful and brown on top, and it's gonna have that really nice brown crust. Our cornbread is out of the oven, and now is the time to see if it sticks or it doesn't stick. So always give your cornbread a good shake, and it looks like we're off to a good start here. It's always a little bit better to pull your cornbread out of the oven and let it rest, like 3 to 5 minutes. It kind of allows everything to like unstick from the pan if there's gonna be any sticking. All right, let's see if I got the touch here. This is the moment of truth when you flip it out of the pan, and boom, there you go. And as you can see, that little bit of cornmeal that we put in the pan just kind of crisp up and bubbles up on that crust, and that's just what you need in a cornbread. And so, you know, just because I'm from northern Alabama, I'm gonna show you my favorite way to eat cornbread. So we are a type of family that breaks our cornbread off instead of cutting it, I guess because it cuts down on the time to clean. So I'm gonna crumble my cornbread up. I love it when it's still hot. Maybe I'll still have some fingertips when it's done. Crumble up your cornbread just like that. I'm gonna put a layer of onion in here. A little bit of onion. And I'm gonna pour a little buttermilk right on to that glass. Now, you gotta have enough buttermilk so you can see it coat all the way to the bottom. I'm gonna put just a little bit of crumbled cornbread on top. And there you have it. The Appalachian Parfait. So you can eat your cornbread any way you choose, but I like mine layered with a little bit of buttermilk and onion. It's so quintessentially Alabama. Happy cornbread, y'all. Cut. If you've made it this far in the video, drop us a like. Why not? No, I don't want to say that.
I think it's that subscribe.
Wait, what is it? Whether you like it buttered, you know, smothered, I mean, not that, but
Cover.
be sure and throw us a subscribe. It helps out the channel. Hey, subscribe. For cornbread. Okay. Make sure it's smooth and has a little viscosity to it. Did I just say that word? Never mind. Screw it. I give up. I give up.